However, it doesn't count as a beneficial orb, which means if you use an orb boost, it actually doesn't apply. So characters, we're not getting an orb boost, and that is the big trade-off with this character. You completely lose one of the buffs in the game. Where, well, don't I look silly? Well, I got egg on my face because in today's video, we're going to take a look at empty orbs once again, and apparently, well, not apparently, definitely, Corazon and Law have the ability to make empty orbs matching. Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, as I mentioned, we're taking the new Corazon and Law into the Garp challenges, the 13-star events, and we're taking a look at the empty orb mechanic with a very powerful unit for this character, being Nami and Robin. Nami and Robin came out so long ago now, I can't even remember when, but with the release of Corazon and Law, they are now a true 6-times captain. They are now a phenomenal sub under Corazon and Law or alongside Corazon and Law. With the ability that Corazon and Law has with their special, it actually removes your orbs, gives you empty orbs, and then doesn't allow the enemy to orb change for the next 3 turns. It's normally 2 because you can carry it into the next stage, but because it is a buff that gives a 2.25 times multiplier with the orbs being empty, when you use their special, that actually counts as a beneficial orb, which is wild. It actually works under an orb boost. So all that stuff I said in my previous video about orb boost being redundant is completely wrong. It's completely incorrect, so I'm so sorry that I put that out there, but I should have done more testing, but I'll be really surprised. I'm a spoon for crying out loud. A really big benefit to Corazon and Law's special that just sort of wipes away their orbs and stops the orb change that I was thinking before I came to this revelation was actually getting around stuff like block and even stuff like super block orbs. In this scenario right now, this is where we are going to showcase the power of Corazon and Law and that empty orb mechanic. When you use their special, as you can see, we get all of our orbs taken away and we get 2 buffs. Well, we get an attack buff and then we get 2 new buffs. One of them is a little jumping orb. Now that jumping orb tells us that for the next 3 turns, we are going to get empty orbs, and this can't be changed. It can be removed, but it can't be changed. So very similar to stuff like Wano orbs, and stuff similar to like rainbow orbs, it means that we are going to get empty orbs. Now, as you saw there, the other buff turns the unfavorable orbs, or like the empty orbs with the little arrow pointing up, into favorable orbs. The reason I didn't think that this was the case is because it doesn't give that glowing effect around the characters to say, hey, you have a matching orb, use an orb boost. But as you guys saw with the numbers, we actually used the Nami and Robin special on that stage against Caesar, and that shows that we actually are getting that. Now, Nami and Robin are absolutely fantastic for Corazon and Law because they're an orb booster, which we now know actually works underneath Corazon and Law when you use their special. So when you have that dancing orb and when you have that arrow pointing up, you can use an orb boost. However, they are a 5.25 times captain when you have empty orbs. So if you are utilizing Nami and Robin's switch ability and you don't have this ability live, you are still going to get a very low multiplier with empty orbs. So it's not detrimental, but it is very, very annoying. And if you are running this strat, you really want to make sure you're running 2 Corazon and Laws in longer content, or you want to be doing some shorter content like arenas and stuff like that. So Nami and Robin are great because they can be an orb booster. They work really, really well on like the second turn with Corazon and Law, and obviously with their switch ability, they can sort of remove all the orbs. The downside to Corazon and Law's ability, the actual downside to this, is if you utilize their special when you have something like block orbs, it doesn't remove the block orbs. It can stop block orbs being a thing, but it doesn't remove it. So as you guys saw on the Caesar stage, we used it against Virgo, so that way when we move into Caesar, we don't actually get block orbs, which is really, really cool. Plus, those orbs are a 2.25 multiplier. They're also like that counts as matching, so you can use stuff like an orb boost, which works very, very nicely. So as I mentioned, Nami Robin as a sub work incredibly well. Now for this particular team, I'm also using Carrot Wanda. I did make both of these teams no stall that you are seeing. In this clip, you're seeing Nami and Robin's power as a sub, and then in the second part of the video, you'll see them as a hybrid captain with the new Corazon and Law as a friend captain, which works very, very nicely. For this particular team as well, we are utilizing Black Maria, which is pretty cool. Vivian, Rebecca, all of these really powerful cerebral characters fall under Corazon law, and they work exceptionally well. Like, they work really, really well. As you guys will see when we move on to this next stage again, normally on the final stage, we actually get a full board of block orbs against the Dofis, and this is where we like can't actually remove them. It's very annoying because you can't just use Corazon special here to actually get around those block orbs. However, this is where Nami and Robin's potential comes in, because you can actually switch with Nami and Robin and you can just take away the block orbs when you don't have the ability to move into a stage, or like the Dofis did, they actually blew away positive effects. So even if we had Corazon's and Law's ability, we actually wouldn't be able to use it, because Dofi would actually blow away the positive effects and then apply the block orbs. So that can be a little bit annoying, and it can be a little bit of a hindrance to what Corazon and Law try and do. Nevertheless, they are still very powerful. Their attack boost is great on the first turn. The downside is they don't get the attack boost on the second turn. I really wish they gave them like the plus buff, like the perfect buff, or they gave them something like the clock buff, and on the second turn it gave you like an orb buff. I think that would make this character like god tier. However, you have some very, very good subs that work very nicely with this unit. Not only Nami and Robin, but Carrot and Wanda are absolutely phenomenal. Carrot and Wanda just continuously show how amazing they are. Obviously, Cerebral's getting a lot of buffs, works quite nicely as well. But because they are on such a low cooldown, you can use their special, get 3 turns of cooldown, and then you can use their special again because they give themselves that cooldown. Now, if you have them Limit Break expanded, they have a 3-turn cooldown. So whenever you use the Corazon special, you can basically use their special on like stage 4 and then on stage 5 again. So they work very, very nicely. As you guys saw there, we absolutely decimated Dofi 2 with Corazon and Law, making it canon Law and Corazon taking down Dofi. Let's move on to Revolution Army 2 now. Alright, so the second half of the video is showcasing the hybrid capabilities of Nami and Robin and Corazon and Law. Now, Nami and Robin as a captain, when you have empty orbs, is a 6 times captain. That is still the, like, well, it's not the best captain in the game, because I think we have like a 10 times captain with Sanji and his jump mechanic and Big Mom and her Enrage. But on, like, actual paper, I guess, nah, look, at the same time, it's not, but it's still very strong, right? Like, Super Type Shanks, for example, the new Super Sugo, he's a 6 times captain too quick. Like, just put that into perspective for a second, right? So, Nami and Robin can actually be a 6 times captain, as provided you have empty orbs. Now, the downside to Nami and Robin, which I didn't touch on in Heavily Demon 2, is when you are in the Nami variation, you're not actually getting buffed underneath Corazon and Law. Corazon only boost Int and Cerebral characters. They don't boost Free Spirit as well, which I really wish they did. If they did Free Spirit, Int, and Cerebral, that would have just been absolutely insane. The monstrosity you could do with that would actually be incredible. However, Cerebral, they don't really need that much more help. As you guys can see on this team, we have Carrot Wanda once again. Carrot Wanda, like, they're my goats. Like, they're just so good. Whenever I'm doing these no-stall teams, they always pop up. 4 turns of cooldowns, you cannot go past that. And then we have Uta. Like, Uta is a character that came out, like, what? Film Red Celebration not too long ago. Is another Cerebral superclass, and ideally, if you have Uta, like, on this team, you're probably going to be running Uta as your captain. However, like, she just makes these, like, fights so nice. With Corazon and Law, they also buff Int, which works very, very nicely if you are utilizing Nami and Robin as a captain, and you are doing some of these hybrid shenanigans, because you can use characters like Kid. Kid is just a phenomenal unit for Revolution Army 2, and he fit the bill just perfectly. But another thing about Corazon and Law as a captain that I really haven't touched on at all, is that they actually removed Despair. 10 turns of Despair in their kit, which isn't exactly the greatest utility going around, but it is one that we haven't had in a little while, and it is one that the Cerebral superclass doesn't have. So Uta has the Paralysis and the Special Reverse. Law obviously has the Paralysis, and now Corazon and Law have Despair. So if you hybrid him up with something like Uta, with what's it called? If you hybrid him up with something like what's it called? Oh, I'm blanking. Apologies about this. The new law, not the new law, the superclass law. Why was that so difficult? You can remove paralysis with him, and then you can do some pretty cool shenanigans. But obviously, the focal point here is Nami and Robin. Now, with this particular team, it actually worked really, really well, and I really wanted to include Corazon, regular Corazon, because like him at level Limit Break 5 is so powerful. But if you don't have him at level Limit Break 5, you can still make this team work. He just needs to be Limit Break expanded. And the downside to Corazon and Law is that you can't use laws in Corazon. Like, that is a huge deficit as supports, as, like, characters. It's very, very annoying. Now, as you'll see here on this stage against Morley, this is where stuff gets, like, really, really cool. With Corazon, you can remove your orbs. You have empty orbs. You have a six, like, well, not a 6 times multiplier with Nami and Robin, because we're not in their dual form. But once we hit the final stage, you guys will see that. But with the empty slots, Nami and Robin are very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. The downside is when you are doing your switches, it can be a little bit annoying. And you have to be mindful who you actually switch into when you are on particular stages. Because Nami, she's not getting buffed under Corazon and Law, and it's very, very challenging to do so. Because if you don't have those empty slots or you don't have a buff, she's not going to be hitting very hard. Nevertheless, the team works very, very well, and Nami and Robin are now a formidable captain. They are definitely on the cards as a usable unit once again, when they really had sort of dropped off the planet, really. Like, they work great because they've got a sailor, they have a very good orb boost and stuff like that, but, like, their gimmick was so finicky that it was quite wonky, that now it actually has potential in the game. Corazon and Law also have a pretty good super class as well. They are a super class cerebral, as I mentioned earlier. And they can remove 3 turns of paralysis and attack down. Now, that works perfectly for the stage that you just saw against Bello Betty, which has 3 turns of paralysis and 3 turns of attack down. But unfortunately, it's only 3 turns, and most of the time, like, that's not going to be super handy unless you are coming up against something that's maybe like 8 turns and you bring someone that can remove 5. But if you just literally hybrid Corazon and Law up with, say, Superclass Law, or you hybrid him up with something like Uta, you are basically just going to remove the paralysis anyway. Like, it's just there. So the super class, I think, could have been done a little bit better. I would have loved something like Special Bind and Attack Down. I think that would have been absolutely insane. But once I read that, I just immediately thought of Revolution Army 2. To wrap it off here, as you guys will see here, this is where the switchability of Nami and Robin comes in absolute clutch, because the big downside, like I mentioned, of Corazon and Law is they just can't remove block orbs. They can't remove those nasty orbs, super bomb, that sort of stuff. When you actually have them, you have to use their special, move into the stage, and then remove them that way. But just like you saw on Heavily Demon 2, Revolution Army 2, Saber Koala, they can remove buffs, and you won't be able to actually have that buff if you move into the final stage. So that's where Nami and Robin come into play. Use their switchability. You can stockpile the block orbs, just basically get rid of them, really. And then you can utilize their special to go into their dual form, if you are Nami, to become a Cerebral once again, which actually works very, very nicely. So big fan of this unit now that I know that the orbs are beneficial and you actually can use an orb buff on the team. That was my big gripe with this character, but now that I know that you can actually do some really cool stuff, like give yourself a crazy orb boost with something like Uta, with something like Nami and Robin, Carrot Wanda, those types of characters, it makes Corazon and Law so much better. But that's going to wrap up the video anyway, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to go down there and belt the like button for me. If you are new to the channel or you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. Most importantly, though, whether you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later!